Great day, great day. Welcome, welcome. Come on, join us. Thank you for joining us. Come on in, come on in. As you join, please like and share our normal weekly routine here. Like, share, tag someone to invite them to join as well. And just let us know how you are arriving this evening. Are you excited? Are you interested? Are you curious? We always like to know how you are arriving this evening. You can place that in the chat here. Again, just welcome. And in the spirit of, me, timeliness and getting us started here, I'm going to go ahead and start. And again, like, share, tag someone. This may be a topic that is of interest to not only yourself, but also others who might be joining. And again, welcome to our Mindset Matters weekly webinar that we do every Monday evening, today at 6 p.m. So tonight, yes, we are talking about something that sounds very simple, but challenges even the most driven individuals. Yes, tonight we're talking about the mindset of balance, leading your life without losing yourself. And so part of this is thinking in terms of our goals, but then also just making sure that we don't lose sight of not only who we are, but ourselves, individually. So it's not about balance as perfection, but really balance as alignment. Okay. Because here's the truth. Most people are not out of time. Okay. We all get the same amount of hours in every single day, which is 24. They're not out of alignment. They're not out of, time, because that's all we're going to get. But it's typically that we've got to get ourselves in balance, and we've got to make sure that we maintain that balance throughout the daily things that we do as tasks. So the big thing here that we're going to talk about is, how do I juggle all of the things that sometimes I think are important but not, and really have a balance that I can live with, that's reasonable for myself. Okay. And every now and then we've had those days where we're like, "Ooh, I got so much going on. It's overwhelming," or I'm doing so much, whatever that looks like. Today is going to be about that and finding our balance in that. Okay. So from a chat engagement, just kicking off here, I want you to drop in the chat, what area in your life feels most out of balance right now? So think about this. What area in your life feels most out of balance right now? Is it work? Is it health? Is it relationships? Or is it simply just mindset? Okay. And thank you all for engaging in the chat and dropping those different areas in, and being courageous enough to do so, because part of this is honesty, but more importantly, part of this is awareness. And once we see it after we've either handwritten or in this case typed it in, it creates a level of awareness of what we should literally do to kind of shift that, to kind of create some balance for ourselves so that things can get better for us. So the first area I want to focus on is redefining balance. Okay. Because balance is not about giving equal time to everything. That's never going to happen. Balance is about giving the right energy to the right things at the right time. And yes, I will tell you folks, that so resonates with me. Okay. And in my day-to-day things, I pivot constantly throughout the day. And sometimes I find myself spending, more time on one thing, and then other areas may go challenged or lack thereof. And sometimes it's really just me looking at my calendar and saying, hey, how do I prioritize some things differently so that the meaningful things don't get left out. Okay. And yes, folks, I will tell you, it's a juggling act. It's a juggling act. And sometimes that juggling act may feel and be, a little challenging. Okay. High performers often chase productivity, but neglect presence. Okay. And part of this process is you need to be present. You need to be engaged in the day to day stuff that you do. So it's not about moving through chaos throughout the day or just getting it done. I want you to not think of yourselves as on autopilot, because in every aspect of your life, I actually want you to see yourselves as truly present. Okay. You can be successful in one area and really, quite honestly, depleted or bankrupt in another. Okay. The key shift is that balance is not a schedule issue, it's a priority and identity issue. Yes, I'm going to always take you back to identity, meaning what are we leaning into in terms of priority? So it's something to think about as throughout this process. Again, I want you to throw in the chat, just answer this question. Where are you over investing right now? And where are you under investing? And I'm just going to throw it out there for a couple of people because it's a common thing that we do from day to day and even normalize it. And that is, are we over investing time in social media, on our phones, on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, all the other different apps that are out there, YouTube? Do we find ourselves over investing time in those areas right now and under investing in areas that are meaningful, that are relevant, that are necessary? And I don't want to offend anyone who may say, hey, in social media is my day to day and part of my daily job and tasks, and that's part of how I generate revenue. So, whatever that looks like for you, ask yourself, where am I over investing and where am I under investing? And just again, from an awareness standpoint, for me, yes, probably sometimes I do overinvest on Facebook, on Instagram, just for entertainment and laughter. And I could be doing something else. So certainly prioritizing my time differently. For others, on those apps could be how you generate revenue. So I'm all in. And doing other things might be where you might be under investing. So each and every one of us will be different. Just throw in the chat what that looks like for you. As we continue the understanding, I want to just give you what the cost of being out of balance looks like. Okay. Because when you're out of balance, it shows up in subtle ways first, such as mental fatigue. Okay. Mental fatigue. Sometimes we don't have energy to show up in a way that we need to show up. And that can throw us off balance. Okay. Short patience with others, lack of clarity and focus, feeling busy but not fulfilled. If left unchecked, imbalance leads to burnout. And I want everyone to hear that. Imbalance leads to burnout. Yes, there's a lot of people out here that are doing some busy work on things and in areas that are not serving them and where they need to be leaning into from an identity standpoint. And at the end of the day, they don't understand why they are mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted, because we don't sit down and do the pencil and paper exercise and say, hey, where does today truly need me? Where do I need to focus my energy? Where do I need to focus my time? Where do I need to focus my mental and emotional capacity in today? And what do I need to minimize? Okay. And so, yes, it can definitely lead to burnout, and burnout in a way that we're like, hey, what happened? I don't feel like I'm progressing, but yet I'm depleted. And so those are things that we have to become aware of. And again, folks, as I always say, once you know, you always know. But when you don't know, you just simply don't know. And so thank you all for engaging in the chat, because that courageous effort lets you see, in some cases, not only that you may not be alone in some of the areas that you're indicating, but that it gives you the awareness of what you truly can take some time and put together. Okay. And while it also leads to burnout, it also leads to us sometimes often being disconnected. Sometimes we say to ourselves, hey, I haven't been engaged in this, or I haven't been really present in this. So it disconnects us in areas where maybe we should be connected. And more importantly, it can also lead to poor decision making. Because if I'm not present, if I'm not fully engaged, if I'm not clear, then oftentimes the decisions that I make in the moment may not be the best decisions for me. Okay. You cannot lead others effectively if you constantly operating from depletion. Okay. So you want that energy, you want that clarity, you want that understanding, and you want that alignment. And if I'm operating on what I often call fumes, then while individuals might be getting a little bit of you, and while others might be getting what they believe is you, they're not getting the best of you. They're not getting the balanced you. Okay. So here's the truth: what you ignore today will demand your attention tomorrow. Just pause and think about that. What you ignore today will demand your attention tomorrow. And what really stands out for me in that is, I want everybody to just think about health. And there's probably some folks on here who really need to have a wellness check, who need to have their annual physical, who need maybe an eye exam, who need maybe to go to the dentist, who have had a ache or a pain that has just lingered, and we've ignored it. We know something's wrong, and the day I will offer to you will come when whatever that is will demand your attention in the future. And so that's what we mean by balance and prioritizing, you know, making time and space for the things that really do matter, that support where you're going and who you are. Okay. So I want to lean into why balance feels so hard. Yes, because sometimes balance can really feel hard. Okay. Balance challenges identity. Okay. Many people tie their worth to performance, output, and even achievement. So slowing down feels to them like losing. Okay. And so they feel like they got to go, 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 go. And if you say, hey, slow down, take a look at some things, prioritize some things, it's like, oh man, you're making me lose momentum. Okay. Rest feels like falling behind, even though we need it. I myself have said, no, I can't afford to take a nap, but I probably need a nap. Oh, I can't afford to just go to rest tonight. I got to, I got to stay up a little longer because I got to get this done. You know, so we start to sacrifice areas of need in the name of pushing ourselves, again, taking away that balance. Okay. And that belief, when we start, feeling like, hey, rest, something as simple as rest feels like we're falling behind, it feels flawed. Okay. And I want us to shift our mindset around something differently, because if your identity is only tied to what you produce, you will always feel pressure to do more. Everybody got that? If your identity is only tied to what you produce, You're going to always show up and feel pressured to do more. What balance does is it requires you to believe that who you are is enough. Not just what you do, but who you are is enough. And yes, folks, it's a mindset shift. Definitely a mindset shift. Okay. And here's what I want to throw out there in the chat. Have you or do you ever feel guilty when you rest? Just put a yes or no in the chat. When you pause and give your time, yourself, your time, when you pause on any given day and say, you know what, I'm going to take a nap. You know what, I'm just going to go relax and sit on the couch and just do nothing for the next hour or two, whatever that looks like for you. Do you feel guilty later? Just a simple yes or no. And thank you all for engaging in the chat. A simple yes or no. And when that happens, I want you to just feel that and notice what that feels like. You're taking balance away from yourself. You deserve to rest and give yourself permission to be able to do that. Okay? Give yourself permission, because when you rest, you refuel. You give yourself the energy that you definitely probably need. You give yourself the stamina to be able to continue doing what you're doing, but more importantly, it feels good. It does you well. I'm telling you this from experience. Okay. And okay, so I'm going to shift to the mindset to true balance. Shift and just focus on the mindset to true balance, because here's the shift. Here's what the shift looks like. Balance is never going to be something you find. Okay. It's going to be something that you create through intention. Okay. It's going to be something that you create through intention. It's not something we go out and look for. Okay. That is a mindset shift. Okay. I'm going to give you 3 powerful shifts that I want you to consider and I want you to think about. From reaction to intention. Okay. And when we are intentional, that means we are deliberately making sure we add balance. Okay. That looks totally different than just reacting to the day to day. Okay. Stop letting your day control you and start deciding what matters even before the day begins. This, folks, is one of the reasons why I often live by my calendar. And I often will look on the calendar to see, and really quite honestly, I'm looking each day to see, where do I have my breaks throughout the day? Have I created a schedule that jams myself up so I don't get any rest in between, no refuel in between? I'm looking at what that looks like. Okay. And oftentimes when I'm looking in advance, I'm also seeing, where does my energy need to be focused throughout the day? So in essence, I'm trying to project what I believe the balance will be needed for the day. And part of that means, where do I refuel? Where do I get lunch? Where do I take a break? Whatever that looks like for you, that's kind of how I do it for myself. Okay. Forecasting, projecting. What does that look like? I'm traveling right now for the next couple of weeks. And so, in all honesty, my schedule is somewhat chaotic, with speaking engagements and training and things of that nature that I got to do, and driving as well. So it's going to be a little bit hectic, and I've got to make sure I intentionally give myself time and breaks to, yes, refuel. Yes, take care of me. Okay. Yes, I got to choose me on, at least on some of these days, at least at some point each and every day. And that is got to be intentional, folks. You wanted to start deciding what matters again before the day begins. Okay. So you don't just get up without having looked at what the day looks like and just say, oh, okay, I got to do this. And for some of us, for me, it's a business mindset. So I'm thinking almost all the time. For some of us who may have the same routine, you may get up, it's the same job, it's the same people, it's the same whatever, it's the same kids, it's the same family, it's the same husband or wife or whatever that looks like. And you may go on autopilot, or you may go on whatever that looks like for the day. I want you to start intentionally forecasting. I want you to start intentionally looking ahead of what tomorrow looks like, assuming we all get it. Okay. Right now, we have this now, right now in presence. But assuming we all get tomorrow, what does that look like for you? What do you want it to look like for you? Okay. That's the thing that I want you to really pay attention to. Okay. Because again, you're directing. You are directing you. And that means you've got to take some time and decide, hey, how do I want to do this? Okay. Number 2 is from quantity to quality. From quantity to quality. It's not about more time, because we're not getting any more time in a day. It's about more presence. Okay. It's going to be about more presence. Okay. So as I look, and this is just me supporting the conversation and telling you how I do it, I want everybody to reflect as you listen. As you think about your day, there are a lot of things that you see that, for example, that I do see on my calendar that don't really require my presence. It just requires me to just physically be there. Like, for example, I have to go get a haircut tomorrow. So I see that on my calendar. And it just requires me to be there. My daughter will do her magic and I'll come out good. So while she's doing her magic, I can reflect. I can meditate. I can disengage, don't necessarily have to be present mentally, and maybe I can come off of that strain that pulls me throughout the day and just really mellow out. Sometimes I might fall asleep. Sometimes I might just have some great daughter-dad conversation, but it's a different type of presence for me. And so just think about your day and ask yourself, what in that day do I need to be fully present at? Because in order for you to be fully present, that means you've got to show up fueled, rested, prepared, with clarity, with insight, and with intention to be fully engaged in whatever that looks like, whether it's a meeting, whether it's supporting a child, whether it's present at some school event, whether it's present for your partner, whatever that looks like, you need to be able to show up, not just physically there, but mentally and emotionally there. Okay. That helps us get balance, folks. But I know that there are some of us, because it was me at one point, who are boom, 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 boom. We're running, we're flying off by the seat of our pants, and our day is just being physically there, not present mentally, spiritually, physically, and emotionally, not the holistically there. And that's something that we got to look at to make sure, yes, folks, there's alignment. The third one here is from hustle to sustainability. Okay. You are not here to burn out. You are here to build, to truly build something that lasts. And that's what I want you to remember. Okay. Not the day to day, The things that I try to do for me in terms of systems is to have something that gives me a system that works. Okay. And one of the things that I'll share this. One of the things that I made an adjustment to was, unless it's training, I typically don't schedule things at 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. And the reason I don't is because I get up early and I go to the gym, and this gives me time to come back, shower, get dressed leisurely, and review documents, read emails, so on and so forth, and really truly take some moments to prepare for my day. So oftentimes the first meeting won't start until maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, or the first task or appointment won't start until 10 o'clock in the morning or so. And yes, it doesn't always work every day, but I've just kind of intentionally adjusted my schedule to that. Why? To give myself some me time. And even still throughout the day, try to give myself some other moments. And so making those type of adjustments for yourself can allow you not to always be in the hustle mindset, and more of the, what can I set up for me that is long term sustainable, that truly, truly works for me, that is truly sustainable in my day to day. So some practices, some rituals that keeps you balanced, so that by the end of the day, you don't feel depleted. Now, if I had an opportunity here, and I do always have opportunities for myself, it's always going to be rest. I don't oftentimes sleep very well. And I've had, struggled with sleeping and sleep patterns for a while. And those are some things that I've got to brush up on for me. But again, I'm aware of it, and I'm taking the steps to make some adjustments for myself to be able to, again, long-term sustainability. Okay. So think about what that looks like and what it needs to look like for you in order to be successful. Okay. Sustainable success requires sustainable habits. I want you to remember that. It requires us to have some habits that really support the effort. Okay. And part of today is really, folks, about you. Okay. It's really about you taking the time to make sure you are making time for you and shifting your energy in your day to day to where it needs to be, because there's only one you. I would love to have a whole bunch of clones of me representing me at different areas, where during the moments where I decide that I want to take rest or take a moment for me. But I don't have that, and neither one of us do. So what we've got to do is find the balance, the clarity, the alignment where we need to intentionally throughout the day, so this truly works in a way that is sustainable. Okay. So I'm going to give you some practical strategies for creating balance. The first strategy is, I want you to take some time, pencil and paper exercise, and I want you to just write down or identify your top 3 priorities. Okay. Not 10, 5, or 3, just 3. Top 3 priorities that are typically consistent each and every day. Okay. Because what this does is it brings you clarity and removes the overwhelming effect. Okay. Just give me, or write down, your top 3 priorities. And you don't have to share it in the chat if you don't want to. If you want to, you can be courageous. If you know them already, just throw them in there. But this is an exercise for you long after this webinar is over. What are my top 3 things that matter to me the most each and every day? And if it's not each day, each month, each week, whatever that looks like, write them down. Just the top 3. You might have a list of 10 or 15. I just want you to think about the top 3. Okay. Now, I want you to take those three priorities and I want you to set boundaries for those priorities without guilt. Okay. I don't want you to feel guilty for prioritizing those three things. Okay. Because every yes is a no to something else. Remember that. Okay. So choose wisely. You chose those three, they are a priority. Now I want you to choose some boundaries around those three without feeling guilty. Yes, that means something is going to have to suffer, but the fact that you chose those three, anything that suffers is not a priority at this level. We'll go a step further at this level. You may still get to those other things, but these things you have to unapologetically make space and boundaries for. Okay? Just a strategy. And then I want you to schedule what matters. If it is not scheduled, that means it is optional. Okay? Schedule what matters as it relates to those three priorities and schedule things because you've set those boundaries. Everything else gets scheduled around those priorities. Okay. What's optional, even though, like I said, it always feels ignored, but don't worry about that. Okay. You can always get to that. You can always get to that. But right now, just focus on these three things. And then what I want you to do as you look at those three things over the next 90 days, checking in weekly, I want you to just make some journal notes on what that felt like for you in terms of balance. Because I want you to check in weekly. And at the end of the week, how did those three things I priority feel? And how was balancing everything around those things during the week? And track it over the next 3 months. And yes, there might be days and months where the priorities might shift. What I have as the top three now might shift to a whole new set of top three or a whole new set of top two. Maybe only one drops off and I add another one. But whatever that looks like, make the adjustments accordingly, but do a reflection on what that actually looks and feels like for you at the end of the week, the month, and just notice what balance looks like for you. Okay. Ask simple things like what worked, what didn't work, what needs to shift. So when we're reflecting, just ask ourselves that as part of the process. And here's the big thing that I want you to be able to do as you think about those three priorities, just the three. I want you to protect your energy because in your day-to-day, your energy is your greatest asset. Guard it. Okay? Prioritize it because the energy is going to be how you show up to those three priorities and everything else that you add to your calendar and to your day. Okay. So in the chat, I want you to just put out there thinking about one of those three priorities that you've kind of reflected on as we've talked about this. And I want to ask you to throw in the chat, what is one boundary that you need to set this week so that you are able to have balance? What is one boundary that you need to set each week so that you maintain balance and that you maintain priorities? You don't get overwhelmed. You don't get inundated, whatever that looks like for you. And this is going to be personal for everyone. But what is just one boundary that you need to set for yourself this week? And thank you all for being courageous and answering this, because again, awareness is how we take action. Awareness is how we are able to see what we got to do for us. Okay. And now I want to shift to leadership and balance, because yes, as a leader, we've got to find balance. And as a leader, people are not just watching what you say, they're also watching how you move, how you live. And if you model burnout, then guess what? Your team then normalizes burnout. If you model balance, then your team will feel permission to operate at their best. Okay. So what you do in your leading, and I will tell us as leaders of our household, same thing happens. Our folks are watching us. They're paying attention to how you manage, and we show them exactly how they should do the same. Okay. So here's the leadership truth. Balance, it's not just personal, it's cultural. And how you look at it personally impacts your department, impacts in some cases your organization. Okay. So it spreads. And believe it or not, folks, it spreads in industry, it spreads in our homes, it spreads in our community, it spreads in all systems and organizations that we might find ourselves working in, certainly from a leadership standpoint. People are watching you. And I've said this before in previous webinars, is never, ever, ever don't believe, because this is one that you can bank on. Someone is always watching and observing how you respond, how you react, how you lead, how you show up. And yes, we all need a model. And the model is oftentimes those individuals that we look up to, that we admire, that we, want to see and want to be like. Okay. So think about that as you move into your day-to-day. Okay. Balance, yes, folks, is not about doing everything, as I stated originally. It's about doing what matters most with, yes, clarity, intention, and presence. Continue to ask yourself, what actually matters right now? Where do I need to be aligned? And what version of me shows up balanced and grounded? Because at the end of the day, you can have success, you can have peace, but only if you decide to choose it. And that's where balance matters most. Okay. And if this spoke to you, again, share it with someone. Even if you tagged them and they didn't show up, share it with someone at the end here. And then just as an observation, just throw in the chat, what are you taking from today's segment? What are you taking from today's webinar as it relates to the mindset of balance and just being able to, manage your life on a day-to-day basis without losing you? Yes. And as always, I will always say, in the QR code at the top of the screen here, consider scanning the QR code, or as you see scrolling on the bottom here, consider going in the chat, right in my profile, not the chat, but the link in my profile where you're joining me from. Consider, and let's do a discovery call and go deeper. And let's create a plan. Let's work on creating a plan where you can truly have balance. I'm open to that. As always, I am excited to take the time and moment to be an accountability partner for any of you. So this work is, and certainly balance, if you will, is necessary for me speaking on this and just for being able to share it with you. So consider doing a discovery call, or just thinking about and journaling based on the assignment we talked about today. And I would love to hear your feedback by just sharing that feedback as and tagging me in it. So thank you for that. And again, thank you for taking the time to join us, you know, and I want you to take an action, take the action we talked about so that you can truly manage, balance. But the most important thing about today is that you get to choose. And I want to make sure that each and every one of you choose wisely. Okay. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your evening and enjoy the rest of your week. Be blessed. Take care.